Welcome to the Miami Herald's High School Football Gridiron Report. This is our post-signing day edition, and we have a special guest today, our good friend from Elite Scouting Services, Mr. Charles Fishbein. Fish, let's just go over a little bit on National Signing Day in Broward County. Not a lot of surprises. Some of the kids stuck to their schools, like the Torrance Gibsons, Tavares McFadden at American Heritage. Who do you think overall is going to make the quickest impact for the schools that they committed to?
I think Jordan Scarlett will be a kid that right off the bat will probably make the biggest impact because Florida needed playmakers on the offensive side of the football. That's what they sold Scarlett on, was the ability to come in right away, make an impact, and help their offense get out of the malaise they've been in the last couple years.
I mean, overall, you mentioned the Gators. They pulled in a few guys, especially there at the end. I mean, you look at Scarlett, you look at Richard Desir Jones, Jordan Cronkite over at Westminster Christian. The Gators did a pretty good job there, bringing in a lot of Dade and Broward talent.
I think having Randy on the staff and having some Florida ties down here, it's a new staff. There's always that excitement with that new staff, so they were able to pull some of these guys from down here and try to help them move forward and start to win games. What
do you think of Torrance Gibson overall? I mean, we've seen what he can do on the football field, but he's going into a situation where Ohio State right now has a lot of quarterbacks that they don't even know who's going to start next year. Where do you think he fits in?
I think Torrance is a phenomenal athlete. He developed a lot this year as a passer. I thought he got more accurate throwing the football down the field. His whole game improved, but it's all about scheme. He's going to a scheme that relies on guys to run the football, to set up the pass, and I think he's a perfect addition to that offense.
Overall, I mean, you look at some of these guys like a Calvin Ridley, Javon Durant at Miramar, Sean Burgess-Becker at Monarch. Who are some of the kids that you think, aside from Gibson, that can step in there and quickly make a big impact?
Well, Calvin, even though he's been out of the game for the last year because he didn't really play a whole lot this year, Calvin's an impact player. With them losing Amari Cooper, they're going to have that spot open for him. So I think the ability to make big plays, they can, design one or two plays for him next year, get him in the flow. But I really think, Calvin will have the biggest impact of all the young kids, the freshmen.
Switching to Dade County, there were a few surprises overall, like kids switching at the last minute. Carlton Davis ended up going to Auburn, even though it looked like he was going to Ohio State. Others that announced at the last minute. Actually, another kid, before we go to Dade, was Adrian Talon. He seemed like he struggled till the last minute with his choice. Finally, he ends up picking Nebraska. What do you think a kid like that does?
Talon was one of those guys that I got, a lot of schools were on. I know that Kansas, Indiana, some schools that were looking for linebackers. With the way the teams are going more to the spread offenses, he played originally as a DB, moved up to linebacker. He gives you that athletic ability at the position. He can drop back into coverage. So Nebraska got a really good one. The last guy they got out of here was pretty darn good. So they've had some great players come out of South Florida, but he's a guy that can make an impact right away for Nebraska next year.
Booker T, we know, 3-time state champion, 41 wins in a row, had a huge class once again. Antonio Callaway decides to go to Florida. Mark Walton sticks with Miami. James King at the last minute flips to Miami as well. And O.C. Rose goes to FAU. We thought they were going to FIU. What do you think of just the Booker T class?
I think the one thing with Booker T, and you look at St. Thomas, schools want guys from winning programs. Booker T's a winning program. Those guys know how to win. So if you have a program like Florida that has struggled the last couple of years, a guy like Callaway could come in, make an impact right away, bring some of that winning feeling into the locker room, and change the whole locker room feel that they had the last couple of years.
I mean, if you're talking about winning programs, one we haven't mentioned yet is Central. They had another huge class, 17, 18 kids that signed. You look at guys like Devontae Phillips, who enrolled early. He wasn't there yesterday, but talk about tell us a little bit about some of those guys. Who do you think out of those guys with the Rockets are going to come in right away?
I think Devontae can start right away or play a lot, as you saw this year with Ermon Lane and Travis Rudolph. Florida State's not afraid to play some of those younger guys, but the one thing that they lacked from the year before, they lost to Kelvin Benjamin, they lost to Kenny Shaw, guys that are physical guys. He could go across the middle of the field and catch those balls in traffic. I think the other guys were more outside guys. He's going to be to come in and play across the middle of the field and give them that weapon that can take a hit and pick up the extra yards.
Well, like always, South Florida had hundreds of guys sign all over the place, a lot of talent everywhere. If we take a quick second to look into the future, who are you kind of most excited about if you had to pick maybe one or two players already for the class of 2016?
2016, there's going to be a lot of guys. St. Thomas going to have, the Bosa's younger brother. You've seen what Bosa's done at Ohio State. So you've heard so much about him over the last 3 or 4 years, what a great player he is. Yeah. So that's one guy I think, is going to be exciting to see go through the recruiting process next year. Even though he's going to probably commit to Ohio State, there's still going to be a lot of schools that are going to try to get him on their team.
Be sure to check out our college edition where we're going to go over UM, FIU, the Gators, and the Seminoles signing classes.